Hey everyone, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I know everyone went to go to lunch. Did everyone go to Chick-fil-A or did you guys Alright, so just to give you a little introduction, my name is Pringle. I'm your SED, Vice President of Programs. I'm from the University of Central Florida. If you're confused where that is, where it's located, we're the current national champions. So, down in Orlando, it's pretty neat. I was initiated into the Brotherhood in spring 2015. I was immediately appointed into service chair, where I served for 2 full years. When I first became service chair, it actually wasn't even service chair, it was called projects, where all we did was work on physical projects, and that was what it was about. I jokingly called it wheel committee, because all I did was repair wheels for different bands, and that's what I spent a lot of my money on, wheels. Shortly after, we received our new Associate Director of Athletic Bands, Dr. Jamal Kaiser. After talking with him, I wanted to take it into a different direction where I changed it into what I thought it should be called is service coach. So we're going to talk a lot about service here. You didn't know. But I take it in a muchly different approach than a lot of people. So for me, you have 2 different types of service. You have internal and you have external. So really everything we do, you can view as service. Everything from fundraising, because what are you fundraising for? Most likely not fundraising for all your socials. You're fundraising these for projects, for any of the programs that you're entering into. Everything can be viewed as service. So the 2 ways that I'm going to talk about it, when I refer to internal service, I'm talking about making your chapter more efficient, increasing the quantity, the quality, everything that your chapter can do. So some of those examples, implementing an online minutes archive, like Google Drive, which we'll talk about later, and all those chapters that know and use Google Drive, they understand. Creating websites for external and internal purposes, such like, I'll show you examples later, is Eta Sigma does their we do our voting online within our own website, which is really neat, so I'll show you guys that later. And then again, fundraising, because without the treasurer, who grew very close with me, my time in the service chair is over 2 years. I spent about $6,000 on different projects. So I kept my chapter really busy for a long time. And then, of course, we have external, which is what everyone usually refers to when we're talking about service. It's obviously anything that you provide to the band program or to community organizations like high schools. Also, Teach for America has a branch, I think it's called Teach for Music. It's a program similar to that we help out at Eta Sigma. So we're just going to dive into it. And because I'm kind of pressed for time, we're really going to talk about external first. So, how I approach all of my discussions on service when I came into the chapter. When I came into my chapter, we didn't do anything other than the service that we're required to do. So setting up for concerts, helping out on game days. When I came in the chapter, that's all we participated in. We didn't do anything else. We weren't striving, in my opinion. So how I brought doing more things is I ask a lot of questions. Everyone who knows me in my chapter, especially the older brothers and whatnot, they hate getting questions from me. Because that's to me, is that how you make progress? So one of the first questions I like to ask people when they say that their chapter is struggling with service or they're looking for more ideas is, how do you think about service? And where I go with that is you want to think about the process of service. Not necessarily the ideas, not exactly what you do. How you improve that process is thinking about and breaking down this process. So one of the things that your chapter should have a discussion on, if you're struggling with these things, if everything is If you got your ducks all in a row, you don't need to change things up. But different questions to ask yourself is, how is your chapter structured? To give you an example, my chapter for many years had a logistics coordinator who, in the hierarchy of the entire officers, was at the very bottom. And then we had a projects chair who handled things like that. And again, it almost reflects where the chapter evaluated their service. This is just a low priority, we just have to do what we got to do, we'll go home. So when you're thinking about things like this, you need to bring these discussions up in chapter. Discussions, if you have service committee, it's a great place to start it, but service is the core foundation of who we are. So these big discussions obviously need to be handled through the service committee, need to be handled through the jurisdiction or other, a lot of people, they're called something else, I can't remember, but other committees. So another question that I like asking is, what is your chapter's policies and views on participating in service? One of the things that I talked to our CFR visit 2 years ago, Chris Young, was what are other chapters doing for service hours, service events? If you have required, some chapters everything is mandatory, or some are you have to, I think FSU does 15 hours of service. So one of the things that we were doing when I came in is we were doing 2 events. So you just had to go to 2 events, which was the concert and a game day setup, and then you were done for the semester. And that's how a lot of our chapter was. You looked at the list and it was 2 events. Another question are, how are your ideas and projects implemented through the process? At that time, there were no projects or process, which is something we quickly discussed. But this is something that you need to heavily discuss, as committees are the foundation of what we get done. If you're one of those chapters that has extensively long chapters, sometimes the fix for that is looking at what's being done in the committee, what's being brought up to the chapter. Okay. The second question is, why do we do service? And this is one of the things that I feel most strongly about. Is your relationship with your director of bands and sponsor and faculty is the most important part of service. If you don't have a healthy relationship of being able to go to your directors, or your directors being able to go to you, how are you sure that you are fulfilling the needs of the band program? If you don't know what these needs are, if you're not having and helping the director of bands accomplish their goals, then are you really sure you are supporting the music program? So one of the questions when we got our new director, Dr. Kaiser, I sat and asked him, I was like, what should the chapter's role be in the music department? Because before, we were asked to do a lot of unnecessary things, as in our band program had this well-funded program. We were being asked to pay for equipment that should be provided to the marching band, like drumsticks was things that we were asked to be paid for. So we did not decide if we had done it. They eventually bought them, but we had issues where we were being asked for things that the department wanted to take care of, but they didn't know about. So another thing are, what are the benefits the chapter focus on? And I'm going to go into the different type of service opportunities later. So I'm just going to kind of skip that one a bit. And then, are there specific projects or goals for the sponsor or DOB that they have in mind? And you would not believe, talking to your faculty, talking to your sponsor, how much they can give you. My director jokingly asked, oh, would you like a list of all the things that he wanted to accomplish? He's got this whole 5-10 year plan of the entire department. And I was like, yeah, I want that list. And he thought I was joking at the time. But I kept reminding him, eventually sent us a nice list. But these are what helps you grow that relationship that I keep talking about with your sponsor. If you're asking them, what do you want? And then you provide it, there's not a faculty member in the world that relationship would not grow from. And then another thing to think of, what discussions are you having with the chapter? So just like anything we do, just like Jessica's awesome workshop, strengths and weaknesses. My chapter at the time, I thought our social aspect was pretty strong when I came in to my chapter. But then our weaknesses were actually doing anything other than social, which is weird for a service organization. So when you're having issues, and I'm sorry to the chapters who have all their ducks in a row. I'm not saying that. It takes a long time for some chapters to really grow into a cohesive unit. But I feel like I've hit the whole discussion thing in chapter. Talk to your chapter, talk to your brothers about these things, about accomplishing the goals. Because while the band director can have all these goals, the chapter also needs to figure out what they want to do. Because sometimes those aren't always the same things. Like, the director of bands would love us to build them a new music building. But that's not going to happen. And the chapter, I believe, really loves participating in the community. So you want to take all of these to help accomplish everyone's goals. And then another thing that is super important is how can you accomplish service projects and goals, which we're going to go over. So here's my list of types of service. And this is not any official list. It's not anyone. No one has ever backed me up on this. But this is how I've used it. Is you have recruitment, you have service and projects, and you have community. So these are all different in my opinion. But they're all the same as in you can mix all of them. As in the community, you can have, if you built props for a high school marching band, you're serving the recruitment. Because when you go to a high school and you help them, a lot of those kids will look up to, wow, like, these people came from the University of Central Florida, like, I really liked what they did, maybe I should look at that school in general. So you're helping your school, you're helping your music program, because, I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you may have participated in, high school band, and then hopefully you have to participate in college band to be here, I hope. So to break it down, recruitment is just member recruitment. When you go out to these high schools and you're helping them, not only are you benefiting the community, but you're just bringing in more members. And then another thing that you can do is audience recruitment. A big thing that we do is we table outside our student union. Every time we have a music event, we have concerts coming up, we'll go out there with posters and be like, hey, come out. Or we even partner with our drama department, and we set up a table together, and we try to push these in. You'd be so surprised that people are like, oh, I didn't know we had a music program or a drama program. Or like, you guys actually have concerts? And so I think when we did it in the spring semester, audience size went up. I think it was about 15 to 20% from the students, which was really incredible to see some of our rooms actually filled with performers. Another thing is what everyone thinks about is the service and projects. That is the meat and bones. That is like 80% of what most chapters do in participating in external service. So I just broke it up into two things. Project is something you complete, you build, you repair, you purchase. So if you're buying music for your school, that's what I would count. It's a physical project, physical need. And then events. Any event that you host, complete, provide benefits to a person. Examples like this is catering lunches for the faculty or bringing in coffee one day. These things go a long way, and while it doesn't necessarily serve all of our purposes, you help build relationships with the faculty that you need questions answered and need ideas from. So we're going to go into brainstorming. And that's where a lot of people, I think, get caught up in, is the whole brainstorming, kind of trying to come up with ideas for everything. So what are the best ways to create service like this? So one of the best things you can do is walk around, go to your concert ensembles, and just sit there and observe. Look at things that you wouldn't normally think of. It's like, you walked in our marching band facility, it's like, wow, the drumline has 0 space to put all their equipment. Maybe we should build them some racks. Things like that. If the music department buys any more sheet music, wow, I think we're going to need some more file cabinets because they don't have enough for some reason. And then my favorite thing, ask questions. Talking to the faculty or even the members in different ensembles goes a ridiculous long way. And then the important thing is have discussions with a wide variety of people. I am mostly just a marching band person, and mostly in drumline. And for some of you big schools that have drum lines that have that drumline attitude, you will, and I've been there, done that with that attitude. So sometimes you won't know the needs of those people because how often do you interact with that? I know the boys at FTL, like, they keep to themselves and they have a good time. But how are you supposed to know what they need if you're not part of that discourse community? And you win players where I don't understand how your instrument works, or how you march around a field and play your instrument. That is my biggest wonder. When you open up these discussions to different ensembles and different people, you're creating the possibility of finding out new information. Because if you've never, hit a drum, you might, or be in that section, you'll never know what you're looking for to help you. And then check other chapters' websites. I am a big nerd when it comes to that stuff. I check out all the chapters' websites. I'm sure, like, most of you guys in here, I've looked at your website. Because I'm so curious to know what people are doing and how, like, other people do their publications. Some of you guys have really cool websites. Just saying. And then another thing is messaging other chapters. You find out a lot of information from just messaging other brothers. This is a great opportunity. You're all sitting here in this room. You all care about service. Spreading these ideas is what helps us get out there. And Nationals does a great job. If you haven't seen their appendix and the Road to Wisdom, which used to be in the Guide to Membership, there's a ton of list of ideas. And if you just look at those ideas usually come with you thinking about, oh wow, like, we can't repair our instruments because they're brand new. I hope that's a problem for a lot of people. I know it's not. You'll think about, like, oh well, if we can't repair the instruments, maybe we can polish them. I know some chapters do instrument polishing nights before game days. So these are the best ways to check it out. And then we're going to go into planning. Planning is my favorite. I have a few things I'm going to show you here, but I don't want to give it away what I have next. Okay, just want to go next. So I'm going to show you a few things that I did throughout my time. And my chapter hates me because I love writing things down. So this was for my second year. This is essentially how I budgeted my life. Was just writing everything down, and this is what we worked on in committee, was just looking at this and being like, oh, what else do we want to do? So here, it's just a list of ideas for things that we need to purchase for the building, and then my favorite is my possible expenses, which this semester was only $1,000, which is pretty low for me. So I'm pretty proud of myself there. I like allocating. It's so much better if they don't know it's coming. So, and then I love my charts too. I like organizing because people, you might come to committee and are like, oh, like what is the breakdown of your budget, and you can find out how much are you spending on things. So here, I can see that we spent a lot of money on stick bags, which eventually we were told like we don't need to purchase. That's the school's job, and the school told us that. But after they asked for us to pay it. So this was something that we looked at, and I asked them, I was like, oh, do we need to do this again? And they're like, please. So that really helped shape my future budgets. As you can see here, new building storage that I have before. So creating these guides and documents were my biggest help. Here we have unbudgeted projects, just lists. And that's how I did it for a little bit until I found my chapter was always asking me for progress. So I said, okay, I guess having a document on my computer. Oh gosh, where's it? Here we go. So I created what I called the live service document. And I lived off that for a very long time. I'm an IT major, but I'm pretty bad. There we go. Oh gosh. Don't look at it's coming up. Alright, here we go. So this was my beautiful live service document, which lived in our Google Drive that everyone had access to. But this is where everyone could go, and I would update every single day. Every time we got a permission or anything, any steps that we took, listed all here, and this goes on and on and on. And this is all years, so that was it. So one of my biggest advice that I can give you guys for when it comes to planning, and I'm going to post this, and this is going to have a lot more content. Unfortunately, I was only given 30 minutes, so I really did not get any of the time. We were supposed to have a lot of discussion and such, but unfortunately the schedule was pretty short. My biggest thing, and I love The Office, for anyone who watches The Office religiously, is when it comes to planning, is like, you saw, like, I wrote everything down and whatnot, but the biggest thing that I had to remind myself when things were getting caught up, just plan. And this is my favorite quote from The Office. It's keep it simple, stupid. Anytime I had an issue, like actually getting a project off, it was usually for me just overthinking. So if you're having issues not getting all your projects off the ground, that's usually normal. But sometimes it's really not that important. So sometimes, if you're like me, and I'm kind of like Jessica, I'm a perfectionist, and I like doing everything myself, it's just to take a step back. So unfortunately, that's all my time. But I'm going to be sharing this online and giving you guys a whole lot more. So thank you guys.